Good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome into another episode, another podcast of Arsenal Fan Circle. Well, we started a little bit later than advertised. This is season one, episode 27. A little bit later than advertised because I've been waiting for my co-host, Matt here, Gundit News. I hope everything is okay with you. But in some ways, the show must go on. So, without further ado, let's get into it, everybody. Talking about what happened this week. A lot of things have happened this week. As we know, the US tour has started. 3 wins out of 3. Excellent work. Things are going well, but we must remember it's preseason friendlies. This is a time of the season where players are getting their fitness levels up to the required levels. And even when the Premier League starts, away from home at Newcastle, a lot of the players will still not be playing at 100%. That will come into the season, into September, as gears start moving fully. But they're definitely experiencing a lot of heat. We're having a heat wave over here right now on the East Coast in particular. And yeah, it's really going to test their fitness levels. And but 3 wins from 3. And we have recently had the petition signed from many 16 fan sites and blogs. The We Care Do You petition has been sent out. And that is something most fans should get behind. And it is definitely was released in a good, timely fashion to coincide, obviously, with the Cronkies in Colorado and playing the Colorado Rapids. And we did get, indeed, a response from Josh Kroenke. Now, a lot of things, there's a lot of good points that we can take from what happened with that response that Josh Kroenke had. And hats off to the folks over at the USA Gooners podcast who, by happenstance or by hook or by crook, got themselves into a room with Josh Kroenke, Raul Sanllehi, and Vinay, and a couple of other press people and media people. So hats off to those folks over there on the USA Gooners podcast. Fair play to them, as I would say. But some of the things, I'll just read what Josh Kroenke's statement in response to the We Care Do You campaign was. And it goes something like this. I'd like to start by clarifying that my family owns Arsenal together, and when it comes to the club, my father and I are in constant dialogue. So when you hear from him, you are hearing from me, and the other way around. So I pen this on behalf of myself, my father, my family, and Kroenke Sports and Entertainment. Further to the interview that USA Gooners had Mike and Andy over there. Shout out to you guys. Furthermore to that statement with the Josh interview, it has now become clear that Stan Kroenke has his eyes fixated on the new stadium, the LA Rams Stadium, and that's a big project for him. So let's keep Stan out of the conversation going forward. It is now clear that Josh is the person who is overseeing the Arsenal venture. So the fans need to stop talking about Stan Kroenke and engage in dialogue with Josh Kroenke. And it remains to be seen how that's going to move forward and how that's going to be moving forward. But that is one main point there. And believe you me, Josh Kroenke is keeping his father up to date on what the events are with Arsenal right now. So I'll go on to continue. We know we have some of the most passionate fans in any sport anywhere in the world. It's part of what makes us such a special and unique club. So they know that Arsenal is a worldwide brand, and there are a lot of passionate fans. Our fan base is very passionate. And he goes on to say, and while we understand, appreciate, and agree with concerns about our club failing to achieve our goal of qualifying for the 2019-20 Champions League, we respectfully disagree about our club being at a crossroads and that things need to change because so much change has recently occurred. Now Josh is talking about all of the backroom, all of the things that he has to had to put in place, and the most recent addition to that is Edu, who we'll refer to later in this statement. But Josh is saying that a lot of things have happened, and the fans, the fans and Josh clearly disagree on this because we as fans see if anything, hopefully not a downward trend, but that's what we're seeing. We're actually seeing clubs over our shoulders, like Wolves and Watford and Leicester City and even West Ham, who have outspent us at this point in time in the window. So we believe, us fans believe we are at a crossroads, but Josh believes that in terms of putting the right people in place, that things are moving along correctly. The letter continues with Josh saying that Arsenal now needs some stability after a 12 to 14-month period, which saw a lot of change. So, the previous manager has moved on. We got a new coach. The chief executive, Ivan Gazidis, has moved on. We've got Freddie Ljungberg moving over to the club. And we have also lots of changes. Can you hear me? Gundit News.
Yes, I can.
All right. So I'm just going through the Josh Kroenke statement in response to "We Care Do You," and we can take it step by step. But I'll continue from where I am right now. So Josh Kroenke's response to the "We Care Do You" letter continues. Edu is first and foremost an Arsenal man who understands the ethos of our club, and as an invincible, he understands the mentality required from top to bottom across the club for us to return to the level at which we expect to be competing. So he goes on and talks about DNA and invincibles. We have a number of invincibles now here.
Sorry, repeat that.
He goes on to talk about Arsenal DNA and invincible DNA in terms of we have a number of individuals now, Freddie Ljungberg, Per Mertesacker, and other individuals who are from the invincible team.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you on invincible mentality compared to mentality of the
So, a number of those things that Josh had talked about was that when you hear from his father, you hear from him. Now, what I was just saying here was we need to get away from the perspective of Stan Kroenke having any direct relationship to Arsenal, because clearly he is rightly or wrongly involved with the new stadium with the LA Rams. So Josh Kroenke is the figurehead now for Arsenal. He's the person who is overseeing what's going on. And when you hear from Stan, you hear from Josh. When you hear from Josh, you hear from Stan. I think we're having some technical difficulties with that here, so I'll continue. He goes on to appreciate the passion of fans around the world, and now Arsenal needs stability. And then the final piece of Edu is in place. Look, everyone knows the "We Care Do You" right now, and everyone knows what Josh has said in response to that. But it remains to be seen. We have until the 8th of August, which is, looking at it now, it's pretty much 16 or 17 days. The guts of a little over 2 weeks. And we are also seeing some signs of things happening. I'm very, very happy to announce yesterday that the Saliba deal is over the line. So that is a really, really good thing. And obviously, William Saliba has understood that Arsenal is the better destination for him, a more attractive proposition. So forever in our shadows will be Tottenham. So without further ado, we're going to get into the section of we're going to call some fans here. So here we go. First fan up we're going to call is Mr. James Rowe. Hello, James.
Hi, you, mate?
How are you? Yes, I can hear you.
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm okay. Looking forward to the new season starting. I think it's 19 days now. So yeah, it won't be too long away. It won't be too far away with it.
No, 19 days. Well, James, I'm calling you from the Netherlands. So, have you got anything in your mind? What would you like to talk about?
Well, I'm just trying to think of the top of my head. I've just read recently that apparently Koscielny has agreed terms with both Rennes and Bordeaux.
Okay, that sounds good. Like good news.
Yeah, apparently, according to different sources, he's going to be meeting with the club next week to maybe buy himself out of his final year of his contract. But I think the behaviour of a club captain is somewhat sour, really, for a player who signed, I think, was it in 2010, and has made over 300 appearances for Arsenal. And if you think of the wonderful captains we've had in the past, Ray, the likes of McClintock and Era, and they were all real leaders of men and all fantastic characters. Die, never give in. And now we have a captain who who have made such a great impression so far. Yeah. You imagine what it's like for them coming in and making their first steps on the pathway of a player. The club captain is not there to encourage them or help them along their way. And I hope the whole episode gets resolved as soon as possible, really.
Yeah, what do you think? It obviously spoils his legacy, and is he on a par with William Gallas?
No, I don't know. Did he really have a legacy? I mean, maybe I'm being too hard here, Ray, but when he made his mistake against Birmingham in the 2011 League Cup final, that was a bit of an alarm going off for me. And having watched him regularly through the years, and specifically last season, his body language when every time we would concede a goal was awful. Not just in terms of the fellow defenders, but also in terms of leaving space in behind and not really concentrating. And I think he, along with certain players, have been in a comfort zone for many, many years, especially in the last years of Arsene Wenger's reign. They were far too comfortable. They didn't play well and were still picked for the next game. And hindsight is a wonderful thing, but I've never been enamoured by Koscielny, and I'm not afraid to say that. And,
no, fair. I think that's fair. Fair point.
And I remember when I went to the European Europa League semi-final at home where we drew 1-1, and his mistake to Griezmann goal. I was at that game live, Ray, and I saw a truly world-class defender in Diego Godin, cajoling his teammates as a captain, talking to his teammates when the ball went out of play. Every time that there was a cross, he was there to intercept it, and it was just so calm and so concise. And I've known of Gundit since his days at Villarreal, so I've known how good he is. But to see him in the flesh in a game of that magnitude as the captain of the opposing team we were playing, and how calm and how relaxed he was, and we had a captain who a lapse in concentration has basically led to Atletico gaining a massive advantage. And I just think it's best for all concerned if Koscielny moves on, and hopefully we can find a good replacement. We've got Rob Holding coming back from injury, and I think we sorely missed him last season. And whether we can, there's rumours of, the Salah deal being concluded later this week, but apparently he'll be loaned back to St Etienne for the following season.
Yeah.
So for the coming season, sorry. So it's about identifying a good defender that can come in. It's just a sour episode, really. You know, I mean, if I always say with Koscielny, if he was that good that everybody thinks he is, Bayern Munich may have come in for him, or maybe a bigger team would have come in for him. And I also recently remember, I think it was the season before Arsene Wenger's last season in charge, Marseille wanted Koscielny, and he said, no, I don't want to go, I want to stay. And I did a little bit of digging, and I thought to myself, no, there's a reason why you want to stay, and that's because you're far too comfortable. Yeah. I know Marseille are not in the best of health at the moment, but it's an absolutely mammoth club, and they're very ambitious and they're very demanding. And I think it's an opportunity now for Arsenal to select a new captain going forward. And considering how positive we've been pre-season, especially with the young, right? Yeah, we've got a tremendous opportunity to give our young players a pathway forward into the youth team. We've got nothing to lose. We've got nothing to lose, and if we can find a good balance of youth and experience going forward, then we can be a bit more robust and hopefully build for the future.
Yeah, of course. There's two kinds of captains, James. We've had Tony Adams and we've had Patrick Vieira, two outstanding captains in their own right, but ostensibly very different styles. So you had a Patrick Vieira who's very quiet pretty much and led by example, and you had a Tony Adams who would shout at players to get him into position. So do you feel Koscielny didn't tick any of those boxes for you?
No. I mean, as I say, maybe I'm a little bit too hard. Maybe I expect a little bit too much as an Arsenal fan. But I just watched them, and in a back line in terms of a collective unit, and also with the Europa League final as well. You know, we're going into playing our first European final for 13 years. And the goals were conceded. He wasn't too far away from them, and you know there wasn't really much cajoling going forward to get back into the game. Yeah. And I just think he's been very lucky. Now, I remember going back to the point of the Atletico Madrid mistake. Obviously, I won't repeat what my reaction was when I was actually at the game when that goal went in, because I went a little bit over the top in terms of my criticism. And there was an Arsenal fan sitting next to me who was trying to basically defend Koscielny by saying, "Oh, he's not that bad, and it can happen to anyone," and everything like that. Yeah. And I always respect the opinion of every single Gooner I meet or sit next to at a game or wherever you meet them in life. Yeah. You always respect the opinion of a fellow Gooner. But I said to him about the League Cup 2011 mistakes and the body language when goals go in, and I just think that he was. I wouldn't say he was mollycoddled by Wenger, but maybe I think Wenger, with his stubborn nature of trying to pick someone up from Lorient, who Koscielny was playing for at the time, yeah, and prove to the world that he's world class. No, you know, you're not going to win the league. You're not going to win the league by finding defenders in all respects that are gaining regular playing time for Lorient. I think also with his Achilles injury as well, that's played heavily on him. Yeah. And you can see with the lack of ability to run, and also now wanting to force a move through. And I just think it's a sad episode for the club, really, for the club to say good to him, because there are better defenders. And I don't know if it was lack of ambition from Arsenal, or everybody being too comfortable. But I for one won't. I will. Sorry, a bit of a frog in my throat. Yeah, no problem. I for one will not miss him. But that's just my personal decision.
I personally thought he was after Holding got injured, he was our second best defender last season, which is a sad indictment on the club. James. But who would you nominate as captain going forward this season?
When fit and back and ready to play, Rob Holding.
Rob Holding, yeah.
Rob Holding. I think there's no better position to have a captain than a defender who can read the game from the whole pitch and have an overview. I think we missed Rob Holding severely last season. I would say more than Bayern in my personal opinion.
Yeah.
And he's a 22 match unbeaten run last season. He was ever present.
He's showing.
I don't think we were lost. And I remember watching him in the Europa League match against Sporting Lisbon at home, where they had very, very pacey attack and good midfield. It wasn't the greatest game we've ever seen, but I remember seeing him so calm and so relaxed on the ball. And Rob Holding will be my choice going forward, because if you think of his age as well, he's still got an awful lot to give. I don't think his head will be turned by links to bigger clubs. I think he's solid enough. He's mature enough to know that he might want to stay at Arsenal, and I think it would be a great choice.
And Rob Holding, we see, is back in training. Hopefully, he may only miss a few of the first few games of the season, and he can get back up to speed and in the team and help the team. James, what do you think about the preseason game so far? What was your feel? What's your take on that?
Very effective, especially with the opponents of Bayern Munich. Yes, they made a lot of changes in that game, and Fiorentina as well in Italy. But the young players, the likes of Burton and Nketiah and Willock, really taking their chance.
Yeah.
And showing heart. And we've got a great opportunity to up them into the first team. As I said on Ryan's podcast a couple of days ago, we've always had a tremendous youth policy, and even in the past we would always produce players of Premier League standard. And now we've got an opportunity now, especially with the financial side of things, to blood through our own youngsters and give them an opportunity. I mean, I see a lot of fans and the timeline comparing with the Ajax module, which is a little bit different in some ways. Here in Ajax, every team plays the same way from, I think, 9 years onwards.
Yeah.
And when these young players reach the first team, they get a prolonged opportunity in their correct position to show their worth, and they receive support from fellow teammates, the manager, and the backroom staff. There's no cameos here and cameos there, and I just think if Arsenal can fine-tune a squad going forward and try to have a good season, I think it's important to win something. I really do. I think whether that be a league or an FA Cup or maybe even the Europa League, even though that's going to be very difficult. You only have to see the quality of the teams in the qualifying rounds to know that it's going to be more difficult than last year. And I think it'll be important to win something. As far as I'm aware, Unai Emery is signed for 2 seasons, and as much as if targets are not met, in inverted commas, you wonder if his contract will be extended. But I hope that he gets at least another season.
Yeah. Because
you can't go from giving the predecessor 22 years to giving the successor of that manager only 2 seasons, when he's got to find out which characters are in the squad that are conducive to winning. He's got to mould a squad in his own image, and everything takes time. He's had a decent first season in Emery. I think to get us to a European final and a long 22 game unbeaten run, I think it's very good, and signs of progress. And I know people are worried that we missed the Champions League, but my response to that is, what would we do in the Champions League this season? If the Europa League is our level at the moment, which we didn't win, then maybe we could do ourselves a favour by winning that competition.
But James, I really
going into the Champions League is winners.
But I do really believe this team is capable of rising for the big games. They do let themselves down in other games, so maybe the Champions League, there could have been some peaks and troughs. We could have had some highlights here and there, but that's for another day to discuss, maybe. All right. One final question, James. Are you hopeful that Unai will integrate the young players into the side as the season goes on?
Yeah, I hope so. he's got nothing to lose, and it would be a huge shame if he was to, like he used to do, leaving players that are seasoned that maybe let him down, which may ensure that he receive a contract extension. You know, I mean, you think of the in particular, they were all very young, all very hungry, and most of them all very together. Yeah. And you know, there is a lot of togetherness. So just try to fine-tune the decent squad. It's a long old season, as we know only too well.
Yep.
And be interesting to see what happens. But we're going to be fighting on four fronts. Factually, you know, it's unlikely we're going to win the league. Extremely unlikely, but a fact is a fact.
Yeah.
We're going to be entering in 4 competitions, and let's hope we can win at least one of them.
Yeah, perfect. James, thanks for taking my call. I really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. And look forward to speaking to you again before the end of the season. Excuse me, mate. Before the start.
Yeah, we'll get together before the start of the season. Perfect. We'll have a pre-season.
Yeah, no, that would be great.
A pre-season show. We're at the end of this window. We have to wait and be patient. See who we get in.
Yeah.
It looks promising to me, I have to say, but we'll talk about it when we get. I
agree.
We'll talk about it probably on first game of the season.
Yeah, no, that would be great. I look forward to it. I think the window closes on the 8th of August. Yeah. As well, I'm sure listeners have heard me before, but they can always keep an eye on my latest interviews with the managers on Twitter handle @JamesRoweNL, and also on World Football Index too.
Yeah, just to repeat that, everybody, check out James Rowe. He is on Twitter at JamesRoweNL for Netherlands, and he does amazing interviews with professional footballers all across the continent, and it really gives an insight into the human being, the player that is a human being. You know, that's really the best way to say it.
Thank you for the kind.
Thanks, James. We're right behind you here at the channel.
Thanks a lot.
Take care.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Take care.
So that was James Rowe. If you can check up on James Rowe on Twitter, JamesRoweNL. Now I'm going to move on to my next guest. I'm going to give him a call here.
Hello.
Hello, Andrew Hinckley. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm good. I know your name, but tell us exactly where I'm calling you from.
I'm in Hinckley in Leicestershir. I'm from London originally, but I'm adopted Midlander now in the UK.
Very good, very good. What would you like to talk about, Andrew?
Well, I'll just very briefly give my opinion on the Koscielny situation. I just think it's just an absolute disgrace what he's done.
Yeah.
What kind of image is that providing for all our younger players, thinking that they can just get away with it? And you can't just say to your actual employer, I'm not going to do what you want me to do. I'm going to go against my contract. I just think the whole thing is an absolute disgrace, and he deserves whatever's coming to him, to be honest.
Yeah.
I've read, I don't know whether it's true or not, but I saw somewhere on Twitter that we considered considering taking proceedings against him. And I think if we did that, and it would just create a precedent across all of football, in a similar way to potentially, the Bosman ruling was so many years ago. And it will stop players and potentially the clubs against the players, because let's not say that clubs don't do this sort of thing to the players all the time, but it will stop this situation occurring again if we were to successfully take Koscielny effectively to court again for breach of contract.
Yeah. I also understand, Andrew, that some French clubs have come in for him as well. So hopefully this will get sorted out pretty quickly.
I hope so. Yeah, I really do, because I don't see him having a future at all with the club now. And whatever, I put it on the chat a short while ago, whatever legacy that he had, he's lost overnight, unfortunately, because it will be a case of good riddance when he walks out the door, and along with all the other captains that we've had in the past. I think it's a bit of a curse being captain. So with this who's going to be the next captain situation going around, I think we should give it to Mustafi, to be honest, and hopefully he'll go.
That's an interesting angle, a different change of strategy.
Well,
there,
we certainly can't keep hold of our captains, can we? We haven't got a very good reputation for that, to be honest. So
exactly.
We give it to the person we want to get rid of next. That'd be a good idea for him.
I love it. That's great. What do you think about the kids? You know, touching on what you're saying with the captain, you're absolutely right. In a year where we're going to introduce a lot of academy kids, to show an example like this is really, really bad from Lauren Koscielny. But let's move on. What do you think about the kids on tour and the team itself?
I've been a real ambassador for bringing the youth through to the first team for a long, long time. I always have. And it will hark back to the days of like the 1990s to me, if we can get a team.
And George Graham.
That's got a load of, yeah, exactly, with a whole team of academy graduates playing in the team for the badge. I really can't wait to bring them through. I'm very disappointed in a way that there isn't a couple more. I'm a big ambassador again for Christian Bielik. I don't see why on earth it's been said that Unai Emery thinks he's got no future with the club. I mean, I'm very impressed with a lot of the performances individually within the US tour that's going on at the moment. I'll come on to a couple of those people in a moment, but how we could have done with Christian Bielik, especially against Bayern Munich. I think I saw that you put a post on, which I've just actually replied to a short while ago, about when they scored, and you said it was a header by the tall Polish
guy. Polish bloke, yeah.
I think, and I said, well, funnily enough, we've got one of those as well, a 6'4" tall Polish guy, but unfortunately it seems that he's got no future at the club.
Yeah.
And I think he has got everything we're looking for. And in our situation, we're not linked to any defenders for next season. Obviously, we've got Saliba hopefully tied up, but we haven't got any other centre backs in the pipeline at the moment, as far as I'm aware. And he could obviously be able to play defensive central midfield as well, and as a centre back. He's just what we're crying out for at the moment. He's so good on the ball, very, very calm. People I've seen on Twitter, whenever I've talked about him, said he's slow, he hasn't got much pace. I don't agree with that at all. If you see some of the highlights of him at the Under-21 championship recently, it's because he's so tall and the way that he runs, his stride is probably the equivalent to two normal strides of a player running. And he certainly kept up with a lot of very, very quick players during the Under-21 championship. So I don't see where people are saying he's quite slow comes from. But he's also extremely competent on the ball. I saw one highlight reel that he picked up the ball on the edge of our box and ran the whole length of the pitch to the edge of the opposition box and laid up a perfect ball for someone.
Yeah.
And obviously he scored a couple of goals in the Euro Under-21s as well. He could potentially, once he's settled and got used to the first team, he could be one of those defenders, similar to De Ligt, who could probably be good for sort of 6 to 8 goals a season as well, which is really, really useful, considering that we have only got 2 players capable of scoring in our team at the moment.
Yeah, we just have 2 strikers, and we need to spread goals around that team.
I definitely think that a few of the youngsters are going to provide those. I'm very, very impressed with Saka, the way he's been performing. Obviously, Nketiah reminds me very much of a young Ian Wright, with his movement and ability on the ball, composure, a natural finisher. He seems like he could be like I said, our next Ian Wright, which would be amazing.
Amazing. Yeah. Why can't he take the minutes that Welbeck is going to leave?
Well, he should. Absolutely, he should. And he could save us an absolute fortune in the transfer market, as well as Saka as well. And I'm not going to be crying myself to sleep if we don't get Wilfried Zaha, because it's just another nail in the coffin of Saka or Amici or Smith Rowe or one of the other players getting in the team. Because I've got three sons, 7, 12 and 13, who are all very good footballers, and all, I'm proud to say, are Arsenal fans as well.
Awesome.
And I put myself in a position of the parent of one of those youth products in our academy, and I'll be absolutely gutted every time, because you see, when they come, when you actually see your child, even if there's 20, 21 or whatever age, they're still your child. And if you see them being upset with the club constantly buying other youngsters who are unproven, there's no guarantee that any of these players that we are linked with or buying, they're going to be any better than our academy young graduates. And if we don't give any of them a chance, how the hell are we going to know how good they are? And we could be missing out on the next David Rocastle, Paul Davis, Michael Thomas, Tony Adams, or however. So Tony Adams was our captain at 18.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to give these guys a chance and a run in the team. And I was very, very disappointed yesterday when I was watching the game versus Fiorentina, but there was a lot of negative comments coming out about Reece Nelson, saying, "Oh, he's not playing very well. He's supposed to be our saviour." Blah 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 blah. And that just gets me so angry and frustrated when you get that kind of attitude with these guys, because they need a run of games in order to build up their match fitness, their confidence, and get used to the pace of the team and how we play. And they're not going to get that unless they get a run of, say, 6, 8, 10 games on the trot. And to actually criticise Reece Nelson, who joined the party late, don't forget, because he was warming the bench at the Under-21 Championships with that stupid manager that we had, Adi Boothroyd, not giving him a chance. So he spent his summer not doing pre-season training with us, but that was his first game. He only came on, I think he came on very briefly against Bayern. And that was his first game yesterday. And just give the kid a chance. If we're not going to give it, get behind them, what help have they got? I'm turned against them in pre-season.
Yeah, Andrew, the fans have to understand this is pre-season. You know what pre-season is for? It's for getting your fitness up to speed, so you're ready for the season.
Exactly. Exactly.
A lot of fans just want instant gratification. It's not going to happen. We need to give these youth players our support, get behind them. We want to change, we're getting change. So the fans need to embrace that.
Absolutely. And you've seen that our better performances during this pre-season have been when it's the majority of the youngsters playing.
Exactly.
We struggled in the first half against Bayern with mostly a team of our regular players.
Our regular and experienced players, yeah, exactly. I am looking forward to the brashness of youth, the inexperience of youth, be it good, be it bad. It's going to be interesting this season.
Exactly. I'm really looking forward to that part of it. And what I'm not looking forward to is it's going to be a horrendous season with VAR. I'm not going to go into that now, but
I agree with you.
You can only imagine the chaos that's going to cause next year. I mean,
I agree with you. There's a lot of fans who are saying give it a chance, but I think I'm in your court on that one, Andrew. I kind of agree with you. We're going to score a goal and be in the midst of euphoria, and hold on, it's not a goal. You know what I mean?
Well, we are Arsenal, and we are not going to get those decisions. I can tell you now, for being an Arsenal fan for so many years, we will be the ones on the end of some of those really bad decisions. Yeah. But anyway, that's probably a discussion for another day.
I also feel like officials, we get the short end of the stick as well with officials. What did you think about Josh Kroenke's statement in referring to "We Care Do You"?
I was encouraged by the speed of it.
Yeah.
Listening to the guys from the Gooners podcast who recorded the whole transcript and played it out. It wasn't I noticed that I had a conversation with one person on Twitter, Gundit, I think it was, who said that the talk was planned for 4 days. Well, that wasn't that talk. It was an impromptu talk that was brought about by that letter. And I was very pleased at the speed of the response. It didn't cover every angle of the letter, but he didn't have a chance to be fair to him because he only had 15 minutes during the half time. So got to give him a bit of leeway on that one. And I'm sure that hopefully over the coming days, weeks and months, the dialogue will continue, because I think that's the biggest thing about this for me, is with the legacy of what's happened with regards to this We Care Do You campaign. It's got to be that this group stays in place, in situ. We don't just let it die a death. And it's got to be able to, alongside the Arsenal Independent Supporters Association, it's got to be in regular contact and be our voice of the fans to the Cronkies, and see if that can work moving forward. Because if that could be the case, then that's everything that we've been asking for as fans, that we have regular dialogue with the owners, because everyone knows the nickname of Silent Stan, and he's got that for a reason, and that's what really annoys people.
Yeah. Do you think
we just want?
Go ahead, Andrew.
I was going to say I've been going on about this for a long time myself. I mean, before all this came out, I mean, I had my own petition that I started because of the way I felt about the whole situation. I think I started it about 6 weeks ago, and it got a little bit of attention. I mean, I've got about 500 signatories on there and so on, and it was basically the same thing that I was after, which was not to for the Cronkies to put hundreds of millions of pounds into the playing squad. You know, that'd be nice, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't about that. It's about the fact that they're showing no ambition or any kind of love for the club. It seems that over the last few years, although he only took 100% ownership about 18 months ago, I think it was, off the top of my head, he has still been a majority shareholder for many years. I believe around 2013, I think. So about 6 years he's been a majority shareholder. Don't quote me on it 100%, but it's about that length of time. Yeah. And what's happened under that time is it's been allowed to just spiral out of control behind the scenes.
Gross mismanagement.
To such an extent, that we've caused all these problems that we are facing today. And it was done under his stewardship, and he didn't care enough about the club to find out what was going on. Now, any owner of any large business across the whole of the world will know on a day to day, week to week, month to month, quarter to quarter situation, he will know what's going on within that business. He'll make it his business to know. Now, he hasn't. And unfortunately, people were left in their positions, not performing, not doing their duties, but still getting the bonuses and the pay on the back of it. And he wasn't able to put a stop to that, say, look, what's going on? Actually digging deep and finding out what's happening behind the scenes. And it's all that has caused my anger and frustration. And that's what I was pleased about in lots of respects with this We Care Do You letter that was put out there, because it does sort of err on that side rather than, we want money, go and buy some players.
Yeah, absolutely. I do believe Stan has less of an interest in Arsenal. His eyes are on the stadium in Los Angeles right now. But I do believe also that Josh is the lead person now for Arsenal, and we should look to Josh more than Stan.
Well, that's it. That's why I'm encouraged, and that's why I'm happy that it was Josh that came out and in a very speedy response. He didn't have to do that, so I'm pleased that he did. I do think that he's sincere. I do think that actions speak louder than words as well, so we'll have to wait and see.
Exactly.
But, he will. The way that he puts about us being excited of signings throughout the transfer window, then he'll make himself look highly foolish if we don't get those. So it's a very strong thing to say.
Yep.
when you're in his position, if it's not going to come to fruition, it's so very frustrating that other clubs seemingly get their business done extremely quickly. You get a
this is Arsenal.
Get. It sounds like on a Monday, just for an example, it gets announced in the press that Newcastle are going to sell Perez to Leicester, for example. I say it's just the first thing that came into my head.
Yep.
And by the end of that week, it's all done and dusted, and he's announced. Now we have been going on about Tierney since before the transfer window even opened, and you know for a fact that we're going to end up having to watch that twat Jim White on Sky Sports on transfer deadline day, waiting for it to go through.
Yeah,
it's very, very frustrating how we do business, and hopefully Edu will put an end to that. Fingers crossed. Again, time will tell on that one, but I haven't actually heard the interview with Edu yet. I don't know whether you have, but I've heard some good things about it.
Just in terms of verbal or text, not audio. Haven't heard anything that way.
Apparently he's got a sit-down interview out there somewhere, and which I'll have a look for later on this afternoon.
We look forward to seeing that. Tell us a little bit about your venture, Andrew. You just started a YouTube channel, and I want to give you some promotion here.
Oh, thank you. Yes, it's been something that I've been looking to do for probably about a year, and I just hadn't got my arse around to doing it. But I've got podcasts available on all the podcast platforms called From Dial Square to Where, and yes, I've got a YouTube channel of the same name where I post the podcasts onto at the moment. But I will be looking to do videos on there pretty soon, ongoing. But it's a completely different Arsenal podcast than the rest out there. I don't do any sort of pre and post match analysis of the games or sort of in-depth analysis.
It's more
tactics, etc. It's very much an Arsenal Twitter based.
Yeah, it's podcast. More of a musings. You're thinking out loud and talking out loud about certain topics, and intertwined with some nice musical pieces as well.
Hopefully the production will get better and better as the weeks go by. But I like to have a bit of a laugh about it. I want to have a humorous podcast. Yeah. And I basically touch on subjects that have caught my eye on Twitter during the week. So anything that's been tweeted out that's quite humorous and funny. Also some, stuff that I've put out there, and I try and explain and expand on that a little bit more, because you can only get so much within 280 characters. And I don't think there's any other podcasts out there that discuss specifically about Twitter. And let's face it, Arsenal fans provide 365 days a year of material
in 24 hours.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, some of the stuff on there is just unbelievable. So we've got some of the weirdest fans in the world, but also we've got the best fans in the world.
The best fans in the world, yeah. And William Saliba knows that. That's why he's coming to us rather than them lot down the road.
Very much so. And I really loved that aspect of it, that they came in last minute thinking, we're going to pull the rug from underneath you.
Yeah.
In the end, they walked through the door and the bucket fell on the red.
Hey, Andrew, I'd like to have you on the pod maybe next week or the week after, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, anytime. That'd be no problem.
Great. Thanks for taking my call. I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Speak soon.
Later. Thanks.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Come on, you Gooners.
Come on.
Oh, I'm sorry. I cut Andrew off there already before he was getting this Come On, You Gooners out. That was Andrew Hinckley. Check him out on Spotify and YouTube. It's called From Dial Square to Where. From Dial Square to Where. Interesting stuff. And give him a sub if you like it as well. So let's move on to our next one. Next call. I think we'll make this the final call of the pod. Yeah, very excited about William Saliba snubbing the Spurs, snubbing Tottenham. And we'll get through some of the questions. London Old School. Eddie Willock looking good. Yeah, I'm really excited about Willock. really excited about Willock, London Old School. And we'll try Richard in a second. Richard, if you're watching, I'll be calling in a second. Eddie and Willock looking good. The youth is the way forward with a sprinkling of experienced players. Yes, Bielik does deserve a chance. And London Old School, how many players do you think we will buy versus how many we will offload? I think we're going to buy 4 players. And I think we're probably going to offload 3 players, London Old School. So I'd be happy with a winger or 2. Definitely get Tierney in, and we want to get a centre back as well. But I do fear that we're going to just go with what we have in terms of Rob Holding, Socrates, and probably Chambers as a utility type player. London Old School, Josh Kroenke turning up in a Rams t-shirt at Arsenal training session says a lot. Yeah, I mean, definitely branding is everything in this day and age. And if you turn up at an Arsenal training session with a LA Rams shirt, that just doesn't show right for me and for a lot of fans. Yeah, I agree. I understand they're part of your family's franchise and you've got them as well as your portfolio, but put an Arsenal shirt on, turn up, mix, be part of the fabric of the club. I believe Stan Kroenke is focused clearly on the LA Rams, and Josh Kroenke should be focused clearly and only on Arsenal. But it didn't look good. That's right, London Old School. Gundit, do you also agree we should be able to get 4 players? Tierney, Fraser, you want two centre backs. Okay, Gundit news. Hopefully we'll get that. But proof of the pudding is in the next 2 to 3 weeks. So let me try calling Richard now. As every podcast will say, this is the joys of live shows. Gundit News says we missed out so many vital signings. There's still a lot of signings still on the hook. I'm very disappointed that Tierney is still in flux. We need to get that one over the line. I'm very happy about Saliba, and I'm going to call Gundit News right now, actually. Okay, so Richard, I'll call you now. The joys of live podcasts.
Hello, Ray.
Hi, Richard. How are you?
Yeah, man, I'm good.
Thanks for taking my call. Can you tell the
That's all right, no problem.
The viewers where I'm calling you from?
No, where are you calling from?
I'm calling you from the States. Where am I calling you at?
Oh, yeah.
No problem.
I'm actually I'm in Clapton, Essex, in England.
Right, you live down by the sea?
Yeah.
I'd say it's a very beautiful place. What's on your mind, Richard? What do you want to talk about?
Do you know what? With the first and foremost thing that I would like to get off my chest is about Josh Kroenke, about the whole interview saying that we should be excited about signings. Mm-hmm. At the moment with Arsenal, we just seem to be buying players that are not for now. Take a look at Martinelli. He's a great player. Don't get me wrong. I've seen him play over the pre-season. It's been absolutely phenomenal. But he's more or less one for the future. He's not a player that we kind of need now.
I agree with you. That's fair.
Yeah, and
Saliba too.
it just seems to me that these players that we're buying, we just don't know anything about them. We don't know where they've come from, and we don't know if they're going to be a complete flop at Arsenal. So, in terms of that, he's not really making us excited about anything. If he says, right, if Josh Kroenke came out and said, right, we're going to buy 2 centre-backs, world-class centre-backs, and you'll have them by within the next 2 weeks, and they turn out and they come to us within the next 2 weeks, and yeah, that is something that we would be excited for.
Okay.
But I just don't see any excitement at the moment.
What would you be excited if we got Kieran Tierney?
Oh yeah, 100%. Because he's a player that we need, and he is a leader.
Yeah.
You know, he's the type of player that Emery is probably looking for, because Kieran Tierney will get up and down the flanks constantly.
Defend
and
well.
He's got that energy. Yeah, he's a great defender. He's probably better to what we've got. But then again, Emery needs to realise if we get to Kieran Tierney, what sort of formation are we going to play? Is he going to go with a 3 at the back and use him as a wing back, or are we actually going to play with the 4?
I think he wants to play with a 4, and I think that Tierney is better than if you combine Monreal and Kolasinac together. He's still a better player.
Yeah.
So
yeah, 100%. I mean, you know, he's won the Scottish Player 3 years in a row for Celtic. So it proves that he's got everything, the aspects that we want in the player. But how well is he going to be in the Premier League? That's the thing.
I don't think any Scottish players have had difficulty in integrating into the Premier League, so I think he'll be fine there.
Yeah.
I think he could potentially he could be better than Chilwell. That's a bold statement, but I put it out there.
See, my 2 defenders that in that position that I would have gone for would have been either Tierney or Chilwell, because they both play very, very similar. But I think Tierney will actually beat him just by the post. That's what I think.
Tierney looks to me to be a more tenacious, tough player, and Chilwell is more of like a Graham Lasso of the old, back in the day.
Yeah.
A silky player. I think Tierney could be tougher.
Yeah, and that's something that we need. We need players that are tough, because at the minute we've got no players that are actually tough, probably apart from Lucas Torreira.
Yeah.
And maybe Socrates.
So stay in the defensive areas. Would you be happy with Callum Chambers being a utility right back or centre back? If we didn't buy another centre back other than Saliba?
Well, to be honest, if you look at Callum Chambers at the minute, where he was at Fulham, he wasn't playing as a defender. He's playing as a defensive midfielder. So maybe he's learning to move into the midfield, but then still have his defensive background because of him being the centre back. Will he be? See, my concern with Callum Chambers, will he be a bit rusty in going back into centre back and playing there? Because the majority of the time he's been playing as a defensive midfielder at Fulham on loan. So
last season, yeah.
I don't know. I don't know.
If
I'm being completely honest,
I think the season before for Middlesbrough he played as centre back as well, Richard. So I think he's comfortable in both areas.
Yeah, but my main concern is that we will still have the deadwood at the club. That's my concern. Emery will not have a full stamp on this club until most of the deadwood is gone.
Yeah. And that remains to be seen, Richard, at the end of the transfer window.
And what I'm worried about is, let's think about this, for instance, right? Emery's got 1 year left on his contract. Now, this is a point in the season where we can actually question him on his decisions and what he's making. Last season was just a free pass, because he had to get to know the players and he had to decide what players he wants, what players he doesn't want. This season is very, very crucial. Now, for me, I expect top 4, nothing more, nothing less. If
we don't get top 4 this season, I think it's been a massive fail. And I think this is where the club needs to decide if Emery is the right man to take this club forward, or they need to make some harsh decisions and sell some players.
Yeah. Do you think the fact that Saliba has come to be an Arsenal player, albeit loaned out, that Emery is planning for life beyond next season as well as coach? Because he's quite comfortable in having Saliba go back on loan, which is the terms of the deal.
Yeah, but what I don't get is why are we putting a player out on loan when really Saliba can easily walk into the first team?
He could, even at 18 or 19 years old.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that you go and buy a defender, but then you're sending him out on loan when really you know that we're crying out for defenders.
Yeah, I think.
Why would you send him back out on loan? I've seen Saliba play. I've seen him play, and he's absolutely brilliant. And I have no doubt in my mind that Saliba will walk into our first team straight away. I have no doubt.
Well, we're saving ourselves about 30 million because if we bought him next season, he'd be 50 or 60. You know?
Yeah.
And that's the reason really why we're buying him ahead of time. It was a stipulation that we had to send him back on loan. And but I'm very happy that he chose the Arsenal over Tottenham. That is really, really a nice compliment to the Arsenal.
Well, I mean, who wouldn't choose Arsenal over Spurs? Who wouldn't? I mean, we've got one of the biggest fan bases all over the world, and that's more than what most of the top teams have in the Premier League.
Yeah, we're still an attractive proposition for players.
Considering we're not even in the Champions League.
Would you? What other transfer targets are you happy with?
I'm happy with TNA. I'm happy with Saliba.
And Ceballos?
There is one player that I'm kind of happy about, and that is Everton, the Brazilian kid.
Yeah.
I'm happy with him. I know Arsenal has been linked with him for the past few weeks. But I just can't. But do you know what? The only player that I will actually talk about is Wilfried Zaha. I think Arsenal are wasting their time, if I'm being completely honest.
Yeah.
Because, as I said on my video yesterday, I said the realistic price for him to get this deal over loan would be £60 million.
Yeah, a lot of money.
It'll be exactly. It's a lot of money now. For the amount of money that we're putting out to players, now to me it sounds as if we've got more money than they was actually letting on to spend in terms of the transfers. I think that the papers completely told us that we've only got £45 million to spend just to see how us fans would react to it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I think they've done, is just to see how we would react to it, because they know that we are one of the easiest fan bases to get to.
Yeah, like I said, with
and then Twitter would just go straight up into explosion.
Yeah, like I said to the previous two callers, we said that our fan base is very reactionary, and that's why you're getting the tabloids creating stories about us in particular. You don't hear the same things coming out of Manchester City, Liverpool, even Tottenham or Chelsea so much, you know. So we are very reactionary.
Well, I mean, as I was saying about Wilfried, see, for me, the one player that, as I said about Wilfried Zaha, he's one player that I don't rate. I don't rate him.
Do you think he can get better playing with the players that are in the Arsenal team? If he comes, he could go up a level.
Possibility, yeah, he could, but we're still going to have a shambolic defence.
Yeah.
Last season we conceded 50 goals, 50 plus goals last season, and yet we were still 1 point off from top 4.
Yeah, we need to. We conceded 51 goals in Wenger's last year as well. Pretty much approximately about that. We definitely do need a centre back before the window closes. I would agree with you on that as well.
I think we need 2. I think we need to, because the way I'm looking at it with Laurent Koscielny's situation, I would kick him out the door straight away.
Yeah.
No ifs or buts. Why is he refusing to go over to the States? He's still in a contract. He's in breaching his contract.
Yeah.
Now, what Arsenal need to decide now is that what are they going to do with him? Is he actually trying to force his way out of the club to get his move by the end of this summer?
Yes.
Because if he's trying to do that, then I would sell him to the next club that comes in.
Yeah, I understand our first caller said that there was some interest for him today, going to a French club.
Yeah, but if it was me, I'd sell him to the first French club that comes.
Yeah. I think we can safely say that we won't see Koscielny in an Arsenal shirt again.
I wouldn't be so sure on that. I wouldn't be so sure because the way Arsenal are going about their transfers at the moment, it's like we've been tracking Tierney since the season.
Disgraceful.
Before the transfer window even started.
Yeah, disgraceful.
But yeah, the club is still in negotiations with him.
Yeah, disgraceful.
Now,
and
if that was Liverpool, for instance, and they went and brought Tierney, they would have actually announced him within the next week.
Yeah, many other clubs would have done the same thing, Richard. They get their business done quicker than us. We've actually spent the same amount of money as Liverpool over the last 5 or 6 seasons. But look at the difference in the squads and look at the difference in achievements right now. What are you thinking about the US tour so far, Richard?
Well, do you know what? I'm actually quite impressed with the youngsters. I know Ozil had a good game the other game as well. He had quite a good game. But my main point is that we need to give these youngsters a chance, especially Joe Willock and Eddie Nketiah. These two players have been absolutely brilliant for us throughout this pre-season. Nketiah has got 2 man of matches within 2 games. And he scored the winner against Bayern Munich. Now, I'm not saying that Bayern Munich had a strong side. They did have a really, really good, strong side out. But yet we still managed to beat them. Now, the way Joe Willock is playing right now and Eddie Nketiah, they are definitely knocking on the door. And we need to give the future players a chance to prove themselves, because I think that they will show more fight on the pitch to what our current senior players will.
I agree with you. I'm especially excited for Joe Willock. I think he has a God-given knack of arriving in the box where the ball is going to be and be able to finish things off. I think he might score upwards of 8 to 10 goals if he gets an opportunity.
See, what I would do if I was Unai Emery's position, I would actually kick out Granit Xhaka and actually put in Joe Willock alongside with Lucas Torreira. That would be my choice.
I think he's going to look at those combinations between those 3 players for the pivot in midfield, for sure. Yeah, I'm very excited.
Yeah. And then
I understand what you're saying about where... Go ahead, Richard.
Yeah, and obviously, we've still got Reece Nelson as well. He had a great season. Well, he had half a good season over in Germany, and obviously the last end of part of Germany, he's full dipped. Mm-hmm. But I reckon Reece Nelson would definitely be one for the future for us as well. There's definitely no doubt about that. But Eddie Nketiah, I would actually like him to stay. I don't really want him to go out on loan.
Yeah.
Because I feel that Eddie Nketiah is the player that we can bring off from the bench, and he can be like an impact player like Danny Welbeck was.
Yeah, definitely. Eddie Nketiah can slot into where Welbeck was last season up until his unfortunate injury. And he can take some of the pressure off of Lacazette and Aubameyang. They don't always have to play every game, especially in the Europa League stages.
Yeah, exactly. Like they don't have to play every game. See, the way Emery could do it, it's like he could play with a 4-2-3-1 formation at the start and let Nketiah play. as the main striker.
Yeah.
And then if Emery feels that he needs to change the formation, then that's when he can play with the two strikers to bring on Aubameyang and Lacazette.
Also, you started out talking about we're signing youth players, but we're signing Martinelli, who's one for the future, and Saliba, who's one for the future. Are not the academy players the ones that are coming in this season and can help us this season?
Yeah, I think they could, but the only thing is we need experienced players. That's our problem.
Yeah.
Maybe we don't need to buy these prima donna names and everything like that, because sometimes it never gets you anywhere.
Yeah, I think the clear strategy from Josh Kroenke now, who seems to be the face of Arsenal from the Kroenke side, is that they're going to buy players who are on the up, not the finished article, and Arsenal will polish them off in the seasons to come. And the other thing is we are paying Champions League wages on Europa League budget.
Yeah, I don't really see the point in doing that, but it's still European football, so I can understand why that they're still giving them the Champions League. I can definitely understand why.
Yeah, so a couple of questions here. One just popped up from Alex from Cannon Fodder TV. Richard?
Yeah.
How much time will Richard says, good evening, Alex. How much time will Nketiah be given realistically?
Well, I'm hoping more time than he has had.
I think he'll be given this season.
Yeah, because Nketiah is brilliant in front of goal. I don't know. On a realistic, I reckon he'll probably get some Europa League games this season, and I think he'll probably get some cup games as well. But I would definitely like to see him in the Premier League. I would definitely like to see him in the Prem.
Yeah, and let's not forget he did sign off the season with a goal at Burnley, so he's got some Premier League experience. I think the ceiling is quite high for a lot of these young players. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited for him as well. But I don't know, I've just got a feeling that we're not going to finish top 4 this season. I've just got a feeling that we're not. It's not me that I'm not being optimistic or anything. It's just the transfers is taking too long. It's 3 weeks until the Premier League season, and we've got hardly the players that we've been linked with. We've got none of them yet.
Yeah.
Apart from one, which is Saliba, but he's on loan. We haven't got no one that's officially going to be coming into the first team.
That's going to help us. Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah. So for me, the way everything is going, I just don't think that we're going to get top 4 this season. I think we're going to finish exactly where we finished last season, which is 5th.
Yeah. Okay. That's fair. I mean,
it's only because of our defense. That's the thing.
You will need to look at the end of the window if we get some players in. Obviously, you can look at that and change your mind, right, Richard?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can't make any real hard and fast assumptions until then. Okay.
Well, I know that everyone is blaming the Kroenkes for the situation that we're in. If you look at it on a realistic state, the Kroenkes are not partly to blame for it. If anything, it's Arsene Wenger and Ivan Gazidis that are the main culprits, as well as the Kroenkes. Now, the situation that I'm thinking is that what it should have been is that if Josh Kroenke and Stan Kroenke saw the situation spiraling out of control, what he should have done, he should have stepped in and said, look, you cannot let this happen like this. This is where Stan Kroenke should have came in and addressed the situation before it got even worse.
Well,
Stan Kroenke just let them do it.
Yeah, I think he obviously respected Wenger and what he had done for the club, and allowed Wenger to be there longer than he should have. And obviously, Ivan Gazidis has been the worst appointment for a long time at the club. A lot of the problems are Ivan and Arsene.
If anything, I think the time that Arsene Wenger should have left was when we beat Hull City in the FA Cup. Yeah. That was the perfect time for him to step down. But I think what it was is that the Kroenkes was going to offer him another contract. So I think that's why he decided to stay on, and there was no other person to appoint as manager at that particular time. So I think that could have been another reason why he had no choice but to stay on.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for the call. Thanks for taking the call, Richard.
Yeah, no problem.
We will see what happens in the next 2 or 3 weeks in the window. I do agree with you. I think we need a.
I'm hoping that we need players for now, not really players for the future. Now, As I said, I personally don't rate Wilfried Zaha as a player. Yeah, if he comes in and he does the job, yeah, by all means. But if anything, I reckon that what Arsenal should have done, they should have gone for Hammock Ziyech and just paid the £25 million release clause. That is the player that I would have been happy with at Arsenal. Yeah,
for some reason they do not fancy or like Ziyech. I don't know why. He's a better player at a cheaper price.
Exactly. He's the better player out of him and Wilfried Zaha. But yet they don't want to pay the £25 million release clause when really you're even struggling to pay £25 million for Kieran Tierney.
Yeah, and I really was disappointed with going in so low for Kieran Tierney at 15 million. I don't think it was the right starting bid for me. I understand how all of this works. I understand how all of this works, but for me it was too low, and he just pissed off Celtic.
Yeah. If anything, what the starting bid should have been about 23 million pounds. I think should have been the starting price. Was the offer that he should have gone with first.
Yeah, totally agree.
It is what it is. There's nothing that us fans can do apart from just hope for the best.
Are you excited for the young players coming through?
Yes, 100%. Yes.
Yeah. So we have to understand that their ceiling could be so high, but they could also lose form very quickly as well. So we have to be prepared for a roller coaster season.
Well, yeah, exactly. But I reckon that what Emery's probably thinking, he might mix it up next season. He might play some of the senior players and then put in the academy players at the same time and mix it.
You need to, Richard. You need to do that. You can't just put a whole lot of kids out there. You need some older players.
That's what I think that Emery's probably thinking, that he'll do that instead.
Yeah. I think it's going to be very interesting. I'm excited for the young players because a lot of them are in the forward positions, midfield and further forward. They really can't affect. The way youth players will drop points if they're defenders. Yeah. We really don't have any young defenders on the books right now.
Well, we've got Zach Medley that we could call up, and I think he's been playing pretty well for the under-23s.
Well, I don't think he's going to get into the first team, personally speaking.
Well, do you know what? When I saw Zach Medley play in one of the Europa League games that we had, I rate him more than I do Mustafi because Medley didn't make that many mistakes to what Mustafi has done.
Yeah.
So surely Emery's got to be looking at that and thinking, well, if Mustafi is a senior player and supposed to be an international, but you're making less mistakes than what he is, surely Emery's got to be thinking to try him out in the game one time.
Hopefully in a cup game it can happen. It's got to. We have to spread the squad out a little bit better than we did last season because our players, especially the strikers, got very, very tired in the run-in, and that was because of bringing all those experienced players in the early stages of the Europa League, traveling. So
I think this is where Arsenal kind of made a muck up. I think this is where they should have offered Danny Welbeck a new contract.
Yeah.
Because up until the point where Danny Welbeck got injured, he was playing absolutely brilliant, and I would have gave him. It's unfortunate the way he's had to not play the rest of that season. But even during that Chelsea game in the Europa League final, Danny Welbeck would have been a good player to actually bring on to give us that fresh energy.
Yeah. I'm excited for this season. Let's see what happens, Richard. Thanks for taking my call. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. You're welcome.
All right. Until next time. Bye.
Thank you for the guys that have been watching. Thank you.
No problem. Thanks, Richard. Bye. Okay, so let's get into the comments here before we wrap up this show. And I see it's getting quite animated down there. It's good dialogue with all of you. London Old School thinks we will get top 4 if we sign defenders. Yeah. Arsenal vlogs. Hi, Luca. Luca, where's the optimism? Let's sign some players. It will happen. You keep saying we won't sign any players, and it's debatable. Yeah, I'll agree with you. Some people think we won't get top 4. Some will. Some think we will. Gundit News. Luca, we need the Champions League qualification for the money. Kroenke is the problem. But is Kroenke really the problem? We know where we are. Yes, he's not an owner who's involved in the club. But hopefully it's not Stan anymore. It's become patently clear with USA Gooners. Mike and Andy have said it's Josh. Josh is the man who is the front person. Hopefully, as I mentioned with Andrew earlier in the show, that we can have more dialogue. Josh Kroenke can become more open and talk more. It would be a terrible shame if the We Care Do You campaign just precipitated one response from Josh Kroenke. We need more of that dialogue. And yes, as Andrew has said, they've put themselves out there. They've said, be very excited. Josh said, be very excited for the next few weeks when signings are going to happen. Raul and Vinay had that interview where they said, we're talking to players all year round and we can just conduct transfers just like that. Well, it's not happened just like that, Raul and Vinay. We have 2 or 3 weeks to do it. Andrew's comment is, I very strongly disagree with vlogs. Man United are a car crash. Spurs are getting worse. Chelsea lost Hazard and a good manager. Yeah, Andrew, you're right. Look all around us. I hate the mentality, but it's probably true that we are looking at 3rd through 6th. I hate the mentality we can't push into 1st or 2nd. We can't just play the season and see how it happens. But yeah, Spurs are a bit of a mess. They might be stronger, Spurs might be, but I can make a case for Manchester United. Manchester United are a wreck, a really, really badly run team right now. They've got all the money, but they're using their money badly. And Chelsea are not going to be as good as they were last season. That gives us an opportunity to definitely get into the top 4. So I agree with you, Andrew. Arsenal vlogs. Lady Bracewell gave the shares to Stan. Okay. She and Usmanov sold their shares to Stan. Okay. Remember that, people. Yeah, we do know all of that happened, Luca, that Stan bought up all of the shares. And indeed, the shareholders, once he hit a certain percentage of ownership in the club, all of the shareholders had to be bought out. And that was unfortunate. London Old School. Unfortunately, Kroenke isn't going anywhere. We're stuck with him as long as he is making money. But let's hope that Josh is a person who, and let's tackle the quote that Stan Kroenke was allegedly to have said. People have taken it, well, if you were in the business to win trophies, you wouldn't be doing it. You wouldn't own a football club. I think he was saying in the context that is very on the context it's very difficult to win in the English Premier League. That if you wanted to win trophies in a landscape where Manchester City and Liverpool are dominant right now, then you wouldn't be involved. Where Man United are involved, you wouldn't get involved. But this is the landscape. I think that Stan Kroenke was a little bit misquoted there. So, Cannon Fodder TV said, Arsenal vlogs, we must get behind and support Emery and the players as much as possible. Very true. Andrew said, Josh Kroenke, if left to run the club, will be okay. And I think that Josh will be left to run the club now. I think it's become apparent that Stan has his eyes fixated clearly on the stadium, that we will not be having Stan as the lead person. I think that's what Arsenal fans need to take on board. Ziyech didn't have a release clause, apparently. It was a rumor. Okay. Alex from Cannon Fodder TV. London Old School is right. We must deal with the monkey on our back. Kroenke, he's going nowhere. Let's just deal with it. And I think that's true. We just have to get past the fact that we're owned by the Kroenkes. Put faith in the structure that's being set up, as I do believe that Edu could be very, very good for the club. And let's not forget, Edu did play under Unai Emery at Valencia. So they do have a relationship. Emery felt that Edu was good enough for him to play for him. So that is a relationship that is there. Arsenal vlogs, we are not a top 4 club side anymore. Okay. Now, I agree with you, Luca. We are not a top 4 team right now. Patently, we have finished 5th in the last 2 seasons. We are 6th, 7th best club. We no longer top club. We are a Europa League side for a few years. Hopefully, Luca, with the influx of the youth, that we can minimize loss of points and maximize gaining points through them, and we won't have to rely so much on Aubameyang and Lacazette. London Old School, I want Kroenke out, but he isn't going nowhere. Isn't going anywhere. Fans need to unite. Yeah, get behind Emery and whatever the players we start with. And that includes the youth players. I can't stress enough that we need to get behind the youth players. Don't get on their backs. They're going to make some mistakes. They're young. They're going to have to learn their trade. They're going to need the older, experienced players to help them get through a season as well. It's a battle. When you go out, when you play against another team, the other team aren't just going to let you score on them. They're not going to roll over for you. It's a battle. Every old professional will know about these young players coming up, and they're going to try and get them sent off. That's what old pros do. They know the game inside out, and they're going to use the rules of the game, loosely the rules of the game, to benefit them. And they're going to try and get our younger players sent off, because younger players, they don't have the temperament. So we have to be careful with that. We have to encourage our young players. And I want to see the experienced Arsenal players like Xhaka, if he's in the team, like Socrates, like Bellerin, say, listen, don't get involved in that. Talk to the young players and guide them through the season. That's going to be almost as important as anything else this season, that the older players guide the younger players if they're in the team. So we did only finish 1 point off Andrew. Ray, why can't we, this is from Alex, Ray, why can't we play the youngsters for the new season? We've seen the senior players fail Emery on so many occasions. Alex, we can't just play like a full team of youth players. We need to mix them with some of the more experienced and some of the more reliably experienced players in the team, such as Aubameyang, Lacazette, the core of our team, Socrates and Bellerin. and maybe a Torreira. I think Torreira could help some of the players as well in midfield. Xhaka even. So we need to mix them up, and we need to keep a certain player like Mustafi away from the first team. So I would like to see a mix. I'm not saying don't throw 3 or 4 youth players in there. I'm saying throw 2 or 3 youth players in there with what we have already, and substitutes bench as well. We can. Andrew's like, we can. What's Emery got to lose? It's his last season, unless he's amazing. If he's brave, he could be a legend. I'm worried that Emery might not be brave. This is a kind of a fear I have going into the season, Andrew. Emery is a cautious coach. He's going to have to like loosen the leash a little bit and let these players express themselves. And of course, he's going to have to lean on Freddie Ljungberg as well, who knows these players inside out. So it's going to be very, very important and very exciting. We're going to have some really, really good moments. And like you said, Andrew, throw VAR in there, and it's going to be a very, very controversial season for all of us content makers. It's going to be exciting. Luca, we won't sign players. How are you getting Tierney and Fraser in 2 weeks? Pay them the money. Give Celtic the money that they want. It's probably as simple as that. I think the player wants to come. I think Tierney should come. I think if we're not going to get Zaha, I think Everton Suarez will come. And I think Danny Ceballos will come. And we really would probably I would like to see a centre back as well on top of that. Luca is just the Claude type of personality in here. He just is always seeing the pint is half empty, not half full. Fortunes do favour the brave. And Richard, thanks for coming on. I really appreciate you coming on and allowing me to call you in. There is still plenty of time, Luca. We have over 2 weeks. We don't want to see Jim White on the final day, but like Andrew said, but we do want to get our business done in the next 2 weeks. 2 weeks is enough time to get stuff done, Luca. Andrew's saying we'll be okay. We finished a point behind Spurs with our worst team. They had their best team. True. And I do think they might suffer a hangover maybe from the Champions League. Richard, you did make some good points. Thanks for coming on. We do love talking about Arsenal, and any subject Arsenal related is always worthwhile. London Old School, enough time for a couple of signings. Yeah, we need to get rid of the dead wood. If we didn't get rid, we can leave out of the squad. Yeah, good points. Yeah. So Alex says, yeah, Andrew, if the same players fail Emery, you can just leave them out. There's no problem with that. Yeah, how come Josh didn't mention Ljungberg, but he did mention Edu? Well, Edu is a high-profile signing. He's going to be the head of football. He's going to work directly with Emery. Yes, Ljungberg is going to work with Emery as well, but this is a partnership that will oversee the style of play and will oversee what kind of players we need to get in. Kroenke is a problem, Luca, but he doesn't interfere in the team. So really, is he something we need to worry about? No. Let's take the words of Josh Kroenke and run with that and hope that the dialogue continues, Luca, and things can get better. If we are going to sign the players that we are after, I think most people will be happy with that window. Andrew goes on to say, let the young players express themselves, had fun playing, and let them learn from mistakes. And we absolutely agree with that. I'm especially excited because all of the young players are midfield or wingers or strikers. You've got Nketiah, who's doing bits right now. I think he could be the next Ian Wright, but we need to not overhype it a little bit, see how he can do. We got Willock, who I'm excited about, and we got Reece Nelson on the wings. Let's not forget about Emile Smith Rowe as well, who has a knack of getting into the box. I think he could be very similar to the way Ramsey plays. So just a few more minutes before we sign off. Thanks everybody for coming in. Mahir had some technical difficulties, was not able to join me, but he's in the comments section. London Old School, George Graham and Fergie did well with youth. We have some great players coming through, and I am optimistic going forward. This could be the start of an exciting new era with our young players. We keep them in the team, we integrate them into the team. Yes, we can save ourselves some money, but this could be the next David Rocastle, rest in peace. This could be the next Michael Thomas. This could be the next Paul Merson, the next Tony Adams coming through. So we have to be excited. And yeah, Luca, Andrew says we have spent money. We spent 120 million on 2 strikers, and we spent 70 million last summer. We're probably going to spend the same amount. Alex, that's fair enough, Ray, but that's football. They must be brave, and they will be. I could see the synergy flowing through the team with the youngsters. London Old School makes a great point, Ray. George Graham and Alex Ferguson did just that. Yeah, very excited about the young and the brave, and I hopefully they can't do any worse than what we had last season, in the wide position. So I think they're going to be much better than Iwobi was on the wing or Mkhitaryan was on the wing. So I think we can move forward. Luca, anyway, mate, what do you think of the home and away kit? Why do they cost 60? So I really like the home kit. The red kit is really nice. Adidas have done a good job with it, and I do like the away kit as well, but I like the home kit better. Price is a little high for, like, I think Andrew said on his pod, or somebody said on the pod, that those kids, maybe it was Lee Judges, those kids, the younger kids have to go to school and hear about their mate who got the Adidas kit. I just think it's very expensive when young kids are telling their parents that they need to have the new kit right away. And 60 pounds is a lot. London Old School likes the new Adidas kit, and Richard says Luca Kroenke is not fully to blame, as I said, but what Stan is to blame for is not investing in the club when we lost our best players and letting Wenger and Gazidis doing what they did. Correct, absolutely, and this is a good point to finish and round out the show with. It started out with the 16 fan sites or blogs saying, sending out a letter, wecaredoyou, which is directly intended for the Kroenkes. And to be fair to Josh Kroenke, he did respond to that with the interview from the Gooners, the USA Gooners podcast, Mike and Andy, who flagged their way into getting a media pass. And fair play to them. I got to give them credit for that. They flagged their way. They got the interview with Josh. They got in there with some of the English media, who took some umbrage, I think, to a podcast being there along with the media. But I think there is good signs ahead. Like we had said earlier with Andrew, the dialogue cannot end there, and we need to move forward from that. But this has been a long show right now, so I'm going to round it out now and thank everybody for coming on the show. Luca from Arsenal Vlogs, very excited to talk to you again. London Old School, my regular, thanks for coming on, London Old School, do appreciate you. And of course, Alex from Cannon Fodder TV. If anyone has not subscribed to Cannon Fodder TV, go over there and hit the subscribe button for Alex and the crew. They do some very, very good videos, and Alex does not get caught up in the transfer melee of this window, but rather talks about other things and other interesting things. So if you want to switch up from the regular transfer talk, go check out Alex on Cannon Fodder TV. I wanted to also thank my guests who came on. Most everybody knows about James Rowe. Check him out on Twitter, James Rowe NL. He does some amazing interviews with professional footballers and coaches. Also want to give a big shout out to Richard from Arsenal TV. He's a YouTuber also, so go check out Richard. He's on the way to 1,000 subscribers. Help him to get to that level, and he can take his channel to the next level. Help two other people. Help Andrew Hinckley from his YouTube, and he's also on Spotify. He is Ash from Dial Square to Where. Andrew is starting out, and he admits that, but I think his stuff is good. He admits that he's starting out, so enjoy it for what it is. The content is great, and I enjoy listening and watching his stuff. And finally, help me here and Ma here, Gundit News. Subscribe, sign up for the new team, sign up for the first team, stake your claim. Close to 100 subscribers here, and it will be a really, really nice milestone to get to before the transfer window closes. Get me over 100 subscribers, please. Listen, I want to say a big thank you to everybody. This has been the 27th episode of our first season, and our second season starts when the ball drops and we have a kickoff at Newcastle away from home. Of course, we will be doing podcasts most Sundays after the games have ended. And I think sometimes it's good to have a little bit of perspective. If we have a Saturday game, don't have the podcast until the Sunday, so everybody can calm down and take a considered view of what's going on. And as Mahir has just said, please subscribe and become part of the family. So without further ado, I will say goodbye and wish everybody health and happiness until the end of the transfer window, and we can hopefully get all the players in that we want, and we can get behind the Arsenal. Remember, support the channels that I've talked about. Check them out when you have time, whether it be Twitter, Spotify, or YouTube. Check them all out. And also get behind the youngsters. The young players are going to come in, and I think they're going to do bits this season. We're seeing some flashes from Eddie and Katia, from Willock. They're all staking their claim. So until next time, thanks for tuning in and watching the show again. I want to appreciate and thank all of you who have supported the channel so far, and keep up the good work, everybody. And until next time, I will talk to you soon. Bye.